Every Tuesday morning, I hop on a Zoom call with all the GPP Level 1 coaches. And the purpose of these Zoom calls is to help them with any of the application of the course content or just to answer any of their questions that they may have about running a personal training or coaching business. And one of the topics that came up today was, how do you price or structure your offering when you're working with a really broad socio-economic demographic? Now, this is a challenge that has reared its head numerous times as my business has developed over the years, both in a face-to-face commercial gym setting, but then also in an online or e-commerce setting as well. You know, at one point I was training the highest earning Deloitte equity partner in the Southern Hemisphere, and then my next session that day was with a barista who was getting paid like $8 an hour. And that can put you in a really interesting position as a business owner where it can be really hard to know how to, one, structure your offering, but then also price it as well in a way that's realistic for a lot of people, but then also not to be undervaluing yourself in an opportunity where certain clientele do have the means to pay a lot more for your services. And so to help me overcome this problem, one of the things that my mentor suggested implementing was a little bit more of a hybrid model, and this solved not only the problem I had with pricing my services for an extremely broad socioeconomic demographic, but it also ended up solving 4 or 5 way bigger issues I had with my business when it came to pricing and charging out my services as an hourly based personal trainer. And ironically, it was actually applying a lot of the concepts and frameworks from my online training model to my in-person face-to-face business, solving a number of key issues, mainly being actually getting paid what I was worth, being paid for all the things I was doing for my clients outside of the session, being paid a little bit when I went on holidays for updating my clients' programs and things like that. I mean, really just helping my client better understand the things that actually drive results and getting paid for those things as well. You know, it's so funny, so many personal trainers, they know that, especially if you're a good trainer who gets really good results, the majority of your results with your clients come from the things that you do for them outside of the personal training session. You know, things like writing out the rest of your clients' sessions for the weeks and actually structuring a program for them, holding them accountable to those sessions, monitoring their food diary or getting back to their text messages on the weekend when they binge eat too much or consume too much alcohol and go over their calories. Not only is it all these things outside of the session that contribute the most to your clients' results, but it's these things that actually cause me as the business owner the most stress when it comes to servicing my clients. And then combine this with the fact that all my face-to-face clients aren't paying for any of these things, it just didn't make any sense. It wasn't until I transitioned to a hybrid model where everyone who signed up with me signed up first and foremost as an online client. So they were paying for their weekly programming, they were paying for out of session correspondence. And then on top of that, if they wanted to purchase an hour of personal training per week, that was what we called a face-to-face add-on. And so now I had a framework where not only was my client acutely aware of the things that are actually driving their results, they were paying for them as well. It honestly blows my mind that more personal trainers aren't running a hybrid model with their face-to-face business, because the upsides don't just end there. I'm just gonna rant for the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes about all the crazy benefits you get from having a little bit more of a hybrid model. And it's hamstrings and arms day, so you get a little bit of that in between the rants. Also, if it's not obvious to you yet, I'm one of the biggest weapons in this field when it comes to the application of high-level coaching concepts, as well as building a business that's actually sustainable and rewarding. So if you're interested in those things, check out GPP Level 1 below. Weight's a little bit down because I'm feeling a bit under the weather. I AMC'd a powerlifting comp all weekend and I am wrecked. Something that's extraordinarily powerful about this hybrid model is it allows you to be simultaneously the cheapest and the most expensive trainer at your gym, if that's how you want to play it. And that's how I did want to play it. I mean, I was trying to run my business alongside 30 plus other sole traders, all operating under the one roof. So there was really some people who were at the bottom of the barrel, and there were also some trainers charging ridiculous amounts for a session, you know, $300 plus. And increasing my rates was something that I personally really struggled with, just for a variety of reasons. I had a bunch of psychological issues with money, as I'm sure a bunch of you do, especially if you've been broke for a lot of your life. But yeah, I wanted to respect and value my own time, and I wanted to charge a decent hourly rate for an in-person face-to-face setting. But once that sort of got up above $100, there were some people in that gym that genuinely couldn't afford that. And it felt so horrible, you know, when they were like, oh, well, that trainer over there is only $40. And in my head, I'm thinking, that'd probably be worse than if you just Googled how to exercise yourself. Like, go on and train with that guy there. Obviously, I couldn't say that to them, but I had no way of helping them because I didn't want to drop my pants and like halve my session price, and I just had nothing else to offer these people. So I just felt like I was sending them off into the wilderness. But then all of a sudden, when I had this hybrid model, I was like, well, look, if you want to train with me face to face and have your programming taken care of, yeah, that is going to be $150 per week for that. But the reality is, it's the programming and the accountability that drives results. So if you just want that, it's only $50 a week. Then you have almost the opposite effect when you're dealing with some of these CEO types, because they look at you like a Rolex watch or a Gucci handbag. They don't want a cheap, shitty trainer. They want to be at the water cooler bragging to their friends about how much they shell out an hour for PT and how exclusive their trainer is. And I could still contend with that, because my CEO package for 3 face-to-face sessions a week, plus the online training and your out-of-session correspondence and your programming covered, it's still totaled over $300 per week. And that's that hybrid magic. Most expensive and cheapest trainer in the gym at the same time, getting the best results and getting paid for the things that drive the results. That's where it's at. The other thing that the hybrid model helped me with was managing the drop-off rate of some of my clients who came in really excited and motivated, but probably overextended themselves a little bit financially. Tell me if this is a relatable scenario for you. So you sign this new client, they sign up for like 3 sessions a week, they're mega excited, but then you find out what they do for a living and it just doesn't quite add up for you. You know, maybe they say what job they do and then you're estimating their weekly or yearly income in your head, and then you're thinking about how much of a percentage of their income that they're spending on personal training every week, and you're like, and you're thinking to yourself, this person isn't going to be able to sustain this for the long run. And for me, retention was something that I built my whole business around, both from a financial perspective. I wanted to increase my weekly recurring revenue, but I also wanted the best results. And in my head, if I was going to get the best result with you possible, I needed to train you for as long as possible, because the longer I train you, the more results you get. And we all know these people who come out of the gates blazing, doing 3 sessions a week, and they can't really afford it long term. They never taper back to 2 sessions or 1 sessions. They're doing 3 sessions a week. It lasts for a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months if you're lucky. And then you get that dreaded text message where it's like, hey, look, this is really expensive. I can't do this anymore. I'm out. But given how my business was set up, I was actually incentivized to sort of reduce the amount of face-to-face contact hours I had with my clients, because keeping things online was what allowed me to scale my business infinitely. And all of these people that I anticipated that issue with, I was talking them through the process and explaining like, hey, you know what's really driving the results here? It's not the babysitting, it's the programming. It's you getting the workouts done outside of these sessions. It's you thinking about what you're eating when you're at home outside of the gym or at work. So even with those clients that were paying me absolute bags and I knew it wasn't going to last for long, I was still able to maximize my lifetime revenue from these clients as well as their results, just by always focusing on sustainability for them, which, look, a lot of the time is going to require you saying no to the short-term money and making an investment in the long play, which is retention, not just trying to squeeze as much out of people as quickly as possible. All right, and so for the first 3 years of trying to run a face-to-face business in the city, I could never take a holiday because I was just shit broke. And then there was this 18-month to 2-year stretch where I finally had a pumping business, but I still couldn't take a holiday because then I just wouldn't be making any money. I'd obliterate my savings, and you just leave your clients. You leave your clients hanging for however long you're away. You don't know how many of them are going to be waiting for you when you come back. Yeah, the idea of taking a holiday, honestly, it just created anxiety. I was worried that I would lose everything that I fought for and grinded for in the first place. And that was really tough. I was like, did I just put in all this work to create some sort of other version of a prison for myself? But again, hybrid model just solves this, because look, it's not a full holiday, but if you're willing to update your clients' programs and get back to a few text messages when you're on holidays, you've essentially got a whole online roster whenever you want to take a holiday. Probably more importantly than just me taking my own holidays though, was when you're working with a pretty upmarket demographic like I was, forget about my holidays. It was also about when my clients wanted to take a holiday. I was speaking about how I was lucky enough to work with a pretty affluent demographic. The upside of affluent clients is you charge them a crazy hourly rate. The downside of affluent clients is they go skiing for 6 weeks in the Swiss Alps every Christmas. So your personal training business absolutely tanks and you can't afford to buy Christmas presents for anyone. You can't even work to make money to pay your bills. But once I had the hybrid model in place, if any of my clients have gone on holiday, I would still look after them, I would still update their programs, and I would still get my online training fee whenever they went on a holiday. So in so many different ways, whether it was just overall retention or managing holiday periods and things like that, not only did it have a net increase on my income, but it also just steadied out a lot of those fluctuations that typically affect seasonal businesses like personal training. It does have seasonal fluctuations like that. And yeah, you should be able to, as a sole trader, you should be able to take a holiday without financially castrating yourself. So a lot of people would complain and say, well, you still don't get a true break if you're taking care of your clients when you're on holidays. But For me, that's a very small price to pay for peace of mind, knowing I'm going to have better retention when I do get back, and I'm going to make money and still turn over a little bit while I'm on holidays or while they're on holidays. At the end of the day, a hybrid model just allows you to charge more for what you do because the customer has a better idea for what they're actually paying for. You know, paying $200 a week for just a personal training session, that sounds like a lot of money for a personal training session, but if you're a good trainer, it never just is that 1 hour of work. Having said that, $200 a week for a really well thought out program that gets some results, 1 hour of supervised training, out of session correspondence and accountability. Maybe you're also prescribing nutrition on top of that, or maybe that's something that you outsource to someone else. And so again, with this hybrid model, you also have these opportunities. So now with this hybrid system, you then potentially have these opportunities to build relationships for referrals with both physios and nutritionists or dietitians as well, which just, you find a good nutritionist and you find a good physio to work with, you're absolutely cooking when it comes to referrals then. But yeah, anyway, back to the point that I was trying to make. Once you itemize and explain all these things that all good trainers do for all of their clients outside of that session, and you explain, it's like, no, you're not paying $200 for a personal training session, you're paying $200 for a personal training session, and there's 50 other things that I do for you that actually drive more of the result and cause me more stress. It's just a way better relationship between the delivery and what you get paid and the whole experience at the end of the day. Anyway, if you thought this was good advice, you should see the kind of conversations that are happening on a weekly basis within the GPP community. Whether it's just the good old-fashioned application of solid coaching principles to drive better results for your clients, or if you just want to receive some tried and tested business advice from someone who's done it before and for someone who understands your situation and relates to you, I can't recommend the GPP Level 1 course and community highly enough. Anyway, if you're interested in that, check out the link down below in the description, and if not, I'll see you in a few days with another video.